Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. I think we have about 14 people on the line. We welcome each and every one of us, to today's meeting. And it's been a wonderful time since the beginning of this month. This month has been declared as Domestic Violence Month. Is bringing awareness to each and every one about this particular pandemic. I'll call it pandemic. I know how we treated COVID, and almost everywhere in the world, we are finding situations of domestic abuse in whatever shape or form. And so we're bringing this awareness to people in our community, the church, the mosque, the temple, the clergy also. They are not, it's something that we want everybody to be aware of and to be able to provide solutions and help to those who find themselves in such a situation. Nobody deserves to actually be abused in any way, shape, or form, because every one of us, we are created equal and beautiful. So we're supposed to be loved and to be cared for. And so as creation of God, we in TouchLink felt that everybody deserves better in life, and every man and woman supposed to be treated well. And so today we're looking at the legal aspect of this particular situation. I know a lot of times when I'm speaking with survivors, and I'll call them victors, and majority of the time is the problem, where do I go from here? All right, I understand I have to move out of this situation, but how do I navigate, the system? The legal system is very, very, very cumbersome. And because of that, it allows some people to just constantly stay in that particular situation. We want to really, really appreciate TouchLink. We want to thank the president and the founder, Ms. Yewande Efodili. We really want to say thank you very much for putting all your strength, bringing forth this particular vision and allowing others to join you on this journey in helping others fulfill their dreams and their visions and be the best they can be in life. I want to say thank you. And as many people that are really putting in their time, the volunteers, I just want to say the volunteers in TouchLink, they don't get paid. It's a work of, will I call it a gift and blessings to see others to be blessed. That we are blessed, and we just felt that others should come on board and we should be a blessing to others. So we want to say thank you very much. And today we have our able, what will I call, a lawyer, a teacher, somebody that is that actually is doing all our best to make sure that everyone understand and know, a pathway, through the legal system, and see that, yes, it could be difficult, but there is a way out, that we cannot continually stay in that particular position. I'm interested in the legal aspect of this thing. For some time, I've been, Sister Yewande has been, tagged me with things like that, and I'm eagerly looking to see, Ms. Surti to help us out in this particular aspect, because majority of the time we're looking, who can we talk to? And I'm so glad that we met you. It's a blessing. We are so happy. We're elated that we now finally have somebody that we can actually tap. We can call on you, ask you questions. Please expect some of us to really, really call you and bother you, because we want our clients to be well treated and giving them all the tools and resources they need to navigate, these particular situations and to come on top. And so with right now, we're going to actually watch a video just as an introduction to see, what we do in TouchLink. There are so many agencies, and you will find out that we're not yet enough. The agents are not meeting up, the demand, that we have in the society. You might be surprised that your neighbor might be going through. I was reading a particular story today, listening to it, that this lady has been married to this man for 21 years, died 4 days ago, and have 5 children, well-to-do, live in an upscale area, and the woman ended up dead 4 days ago, leaving 5 children behind. And everybody would think, okay, with all the affluent and the money, things like that shouldn't happen. But a lot of things happened behind closed doors. It's not just the regular people, the medical doctors, lawyers, people that are workplace, politicians, pastors, clergy, rabbi, it cuts across. So it's not just, it's only if you don't know, you might think it doesn't happen in such a lot of times we think people that are downtrodden, poor, those are the people that goes through that, but that is not the case. We've seen all kinds of circumstances and situations. So with this introduction, I want to welcome each and every one of us. Please get your pen, get your book, because somebody will be waiting for you tomorrow or before the end of today to say, please help me out. And you'll be able to give them, information that will really, really be, deliver them, set them free, give them freedom out of their circumstances and situation. So I hand it over for this 2 minutes video, and then I'll come back again and we'll have Miss Surti, addressing us and taking us on this wonderful ride tonight.
For over 8 years, I've been in a very abusive relationship. I suffered physical and emotional abuse.
In 2017, the National Domestic Violence Hotline received more than 300,000 phone calls and text messages from people in abuse situations looking for help. 98,000 calls went unanswered due to inadequate resources. Within the same year, TouchLink, a New Jersey-based nonprofit, received 1,386 calls, chats, and text messages from victims and survivors of domestic violence.
You may not have an idea how it might be for women out there, but the reality is that some of us were living in plenty. We had great homes, we had great cars, we had everything going well, and then all of a sudden things went south. And we lost all of that and had to move into a homeless shelter with our kids. We had to face fear. We had to live in anxiety, so much pain, so much turmoil.
With the support of volunteers, financial and prayer partners, the professional team and the board of directors and advisors, TouchLink provides counseling services and a 24/7 crisis hotline. We devise and implement safety plans tailored to meet individual needs in moments of crisis. We organize life-changing workshops, community outreaches, and embark on social services advocacy. A typical session at our monthly support meetings may address topics such as building confidence, the effects of domestic violence on children, absentee fathers, and avoiding unhealthy relationships.
Be a voice in your community. Be a voice at your workplace. Be a voice at your job. Be a voice at the marketplace. Be a voice on the highway. Go out there and say something. Help that woman that cannot speak. Help those children that are directly affected by domestic violence, and be a voice. Help them to heal. Help them to get back to a place of dignity.
To keep our activities going, we raise funds through walks, rallies, and voluntary contributions.
TouchLink exists to support, uplift, and empower victims and survivors of domestic violence. We do this through advocacy, education, and community outreach. Every time I meet a victim of domestic violence and I hear their story, I have a big rush of flashback of what had happened to me in my life, and I get so passionate and desperate to provide help and to get them to where they need to be.
TouchLink for me has done so much. I remember meeting the founder, Divinely, For me, Mommy Yewande has been like a mom to me. She's been there for us. How can I ever forget last Christmas, December 2017, while people were running around doing their shopping? My kids and I were in a homeless shelter where we couldn't cook. We didn't have access to hot meals. And she drove several miles to come give us a pan of jollof rice I will never ever forget in my life. That was what we ate throughout the Christmas period. She brought the kids toys, she brought them clothes, she gave me a gift card. For me, that was like heaven.
And it has been over a year now, and I am anxiety free, no more fear. And I have been experiencing prosperity, walking, in purpose, that God has for me. And I will continue to support this ministry, TouchLink, because it has done so much for me. This is my testimony.
Domestic violence affects women, men, and children. Your donations can save a life. Join us today as we empower the victims to become victors. Help us break the silence and provide much-needed resources to survivors of domestic violence on their journey to total freedom. TouchLink. Touching lives, restoring hope.
We're all welcome. At least we see just a tidbit of what we do. And I believe that we can do more with the support of each and every one of us on this Zoom link tonight. If you can do your part, just letting other people know and to just give. All the money proceed goes in taking care of the victims, because the volunteers, they do it heartily. So we're not using the money for administrative cost or something. All the money that we get, donations and all that, goes towards the victims and the survivors to just make sure that their life, we can put a smile on their face. So having said that, if you go to touchlink.org, there is a link there you can donate. And we really, there is nothing that is good that is done excellently well with that money. I know money answereth all things. So I'm not shy to say, please give, donate, and give generously, because we're changing lives. And it's not going to our pockets, constantly making sure that these people that God has brought across our way, they are doing well and taking care of them. So with joy in my own heart, I now welcome Ms. Surti. Thank you so much for coming. And I have my pen, my book, and I implore everybody to have that too, because somebody will be calling you for help. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. Firstly, I want to thank the founder and the president, Yewande Afidili, for inviting me. It was on a very short notice. Wonderful person, wonderful speaker. I also want to thank the entire TouchLink team for putting this session together today. Before we get started, I quickly want to just say that my role is of a legal advocate. So I'm not a lawyer, which means that I cannot give any legal advice, but my role is of a legal advocate, so I can let you know your rights. Correct. So those two are separate things. A licensed attorney can give you a legal advice. A legal advocate can only help you know how to navigate the court system, what to do when the police is at the door, what documents are necessary, what you should do, but it's not an advice. So just want to clarify that, and then we can step ahead into our session. But thank you so much. So how are we doing this? Do you want me to get started with our questions? I think you're on mute.
But the way you want it, you can start.
Okay, sure.
Maybe it's in line with what you have already.
Perfect. So I read so many questions, and we also saw the video. Domestic violence is indeed, it's a pandemic. It's just, we know that it's a power and control dynamic. It's a power and control game. And definitely domestic violence is applicable to everyone, men, women, children. Abuse is everywhere. abuse. And sometimes this abuse is so much normalized in different cultures in a different way that certain abuses are not even considered abuse. So that's a problem. But let's jump into some of the questions that are already mentioned in the chat. And let me go step by step. I already have some answers related to, if you're an immigrant and if you're suffering from domestic violence, what can be done? So immigration is a common tool used by abusive individuals to control partners whose immigration status is dependent on them. They often threaten to withdraw sponsorship, refuse to file immigration papers, withhold immigration information and documents, and threaten to have their spouses deported by reporting them to immigration authorities. If your immigration status is dependent on your abusive spouse, or you are undocumented, you may be afraid to live or divorce your partner out of fear of becoming undocumented or being deported. If so, what is your option? You might have some immigration's option. For instance, Violence Against Women's Act, it's called VAWA. The Violence Against Women's Act provides immigration relief for some women who have experienced domestic and other forms of violence. These laws are complicated. So consult an immigration lawyer, a licensed immigration attorney with VAWA before you take any legal action. VAWA was reauthorized in 2005, so make sure to ask your attorney about any updated VAWA law that might impact your case. Self-petition, if you are currently married or were married within the last 2 years to a US citizen or lawful permanent resident, which is called a green card holder, you may be eligible to apply for a green card on your own or without the knowledge or cooperation of an abusive spouse. To do so, you must show that you are a victim of domestic violence, that you were married to a green card holder or a US citizen spouse. There is also something called bettered spouse waiver. If you are a lawful permanent resident with a conditional 2-year green card and have been abused by your spouse, you can request a waiver of the requirement that you have been abused by your spouse. If you're already divorced from your abusive spouse, you might still be eligible for the waiver. You can show that you entered the marriage in the good faith. Then there are other different kind of conditions, and therefore it's most important that you consult an immigration lawyer. Let's look at some other questions. I see that if ICE shows up at my doorstep, should I open my door? Yes, you should open your door because you do have rights to it. And here is my answer, that you have a right to have an attorney and to request a hearing before an immigration court, even if ICE shows up at your door. Consult an immigration lawyer immediately if you have received the notice to attend a deportation or removal hearing. Also make sure that you go to all court hearings scheduled in your case. You may be deported if you do not appear for any hearing. If you attend the court hearing, you may be able to apply for one of the immigration reliefs described. As I said, VAWA, self-petition, those are the immigration reliefs. So yes, open the door. You have to be confident, but you do have a right to an immigration lawyer, and make sure you attend all the court hearings. And then let's see, there are some other questions here. If I'm stopped by the police as an immigrant, what is my legal right here in the US? If I'm stopped by the police officer, what should I do? And if I'm detained or put into deportation proceedings, what should I do? For all the three, definitely having a lawyer helps, because a lawyer is going to represent you in the court. The lawyer knows the process. And sometimes the lawyers, may that be family law or may that be immigration law. If the lawyer who does family law practice or immigration law, sometimes they also know the judges, the USCIS officers. So the process or the navigation becomes a lot more easier if you have a lawyer. Yes, lawyers are expensive, But then there are also lot many resources like legal aid services, LSNJ, Central Jersey Legal Services. There are a lot many resources. Depending on your eligibility and circumstances, you could be eligible for a free legal aid lawyer, which means a free legal representation. There are certain criteria to it, certain income bars, certain standards of visa, but it all depends. You may have to just pick up a phone, call the legal aid resources, and check if you're eligible for a representation or not. One thing I would want to highlight in terms of documentation, what documents are necessary, especially when you enter any kind of relationship, and what should you have a record of or a hold of. So the checklist works this way. Proof of residency, whatever your visa papers are, okay? If you are a green card holder, if you're a US citizen, it's very important to have that in your phone. Just take a screenshot, because what if the abuser takes all the documents away? It's important that it's there somewhere in a safe space with you. It could be in your phone, or it could be you have just made a copy and you have put it at a safe place. Your I-94 card, your passport, your social security card, your immigration receipt notices, your driver's license, your birth certificates, your marriage certificates, copy of your tax returns, lease papers if you're living in a rental apartment, your lease papers. If you are owning a home with your partner, any documentation related to that he's the owner, or you are the owner, or you're the joint owner, the deed, a copy of a deed, bank statements, pay stubs. Sometimes it's important to have the bank statements, joint bank statements and individual bank statements if you have of the other spouse, only because if this matter is going to go to the family law, if there is a separation, if there is a divorce, you want to know the bank account details of the other party as well. Pay stubs of what your partner makes, again, because we are talking about if this results where there is domestic violence, separation, divorce, then all of this information is required. Utility bills, are the utility bills in your names? Wedding photos and other photos of you and your spouse, because if you are going to the immigration, you have to establish that you did come in this marriage in good faith. How is a good faith established? Through the wedding photos, that yes, this was a genuine marriage. Your children's birth certificates, passports, immigration papers, copy of your spouse's immigration papers. Some spouses could be on a H1 visa, L1 visa, could be, but you need a copy of that, because if you're transitioning from one status to a different status, your immigration lawyer is going to ask for a receipt number. Your immigration lawyer is going to ask, okay, I need to see that paperwork. So having a checklist of all these important documents, and I think it should be saved in your cell phone, in your email. If your email, just make sure your email is also protected email. Nobody has the password. It should be together in one folder. So this is something I definitely want to highlight. What other questions do we have here? Let's see. My visa expired and I'm afraid to report my situation due to fear of deportation. No, this is what we tell even the undocumented people. If you are in a domestic violence situation, and even if you're undocumented, it's still your human right to report it, because protection is necessary, right? So if you are in a domestic violence situation and your visa has expired, those are two different things. Let's separate that. Visa is an immigration thing. Domestic violence is putting you into danger. It could be verbal abuse, it could be physical abuse. When you go outside and when you report it to the police is not asking you, oh, by the way, your visa expired, so now I'm not going to do anything for you. No, those are two separate things. Nobody wants to know about your visa. Right now, you're just reporting domestic violence. Could be physical harm, emotional harm, financial abuse, psychological abuse. So separate two things, and reporting to the police, irrespective of your immigration status, is your human right. Yes, you are fearful. That's a whole different story, that you are fearful. But to report it, nobody's going to ask you about your visa status. So just want to clarify on that. Okay. What should I expect in court? I'm meeting my abuser in court and I'm scared. Yes, that's right. That's right. So you can let the court personnel know that this person has abused me, and if there is a way where we don't come eye to eye in contact with each other. And definitely, if that is something you're afraid of, it's definitely important that you let the court personnel right before your court hearing, you let them know. And and sometimes they make a provision where two people, especially when the fear is established, you don't come face to face in front of each other. They will separate you in two different rooms, or they may just call one by one and make the other party sit separately in a different chamber. So that's possible. Should you document any instances of abuse just to be able to prove the abuse is occurring? Absolutely. Documentation of any abuse is absolutely necessary, required, and you must do. For instance, let's say, I'm just going to give a hypothetical example. Let's say someone married in 2013, okay, and they have the abuse started in 2013. We are in 2022. Tomorrow they want to go and report. When you go and report, don't just report it on the incident that occurred yesterday or today. Most of the times what happens with victims, they go and they report it about the fresh incident, that this happened yesterday. Yes, the fresh incident is very critical, but there is something known as a restraining order. There are three kinds of restraining orders, but let's talk about temporary restraining order, TRO, in the state of New Jersey. When you go to report to the police, and if you want to take a restraining order, a temporary restraining order, which means the fear has to be established, and there is a fear. Fear is not only established because someone has physically abused you. Fear could be in multiple ways: psychological abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, right? The scars doesn't have to be visible always physically, because there are layers to the abuse. So when you go to report this to the police that, okay, I want to report on the incident that happened yesterday, my strong suggestion is that report all the incidents that has happened since 2013. Don't just report it on the latest incident. How will you be able to report on all the incidents? That can be easier if you have documented, if you have journaled it. That 2013 December, in 2013 December during the Christmas time, 2014 fall, or if you have remembered the specific dates, that on this date this is what has happened. Why all those incidents are important to report it on the TRO? Because once your TRO has all the incidents, after the temporary restraining order, which is served for 7 to 10 days, then you go for final restraining. There will be a final restraining order hearing. The lawyer who represents you, or if you represent yourself in the court, the judge will only allow you to speak on the incident that are mentioned on the TRO. So if you have just mentioned one incident of abuse, that, oh, this happened yesterday, your argument to the judge is just based on that incident. You cannot argue, oh, he also did, or she also did this in 2013. No. That's not written on the TRO. So it's very important the entire history of abuse is mentioned on the temporary restraining order. Once it's mentioned, and that goes to the FRO hearing, final restraining order hearing. Okay, at that point, you have a very strong point that, okay, I have mentioned the entire chronological order, and these are what my arguments is. Also, it's important to have evidence, because in the court of law, verbal arguments are just verbal, but you have to prove it. So that means any text messages, anything that the abuser has broken, it could be a cell phone, it could be a laptop, it could be a door, somebody has just completely broken the door. Take pictures, gather evidence. It's very important that when you write your history, this is what happened, it should also match with the evidence. It's not just the abuse, but the evidence also should be proven. Therefore, it's extremely important that you gather text messages, emails, any abusive emails if the either party has written, photographs. It could be any kind of broken things, or if you are injured, any kind of pictures that you may have, make sure that you have gathered that. Then let's say if there is mental harassment going on, and if you have gone to a hospital, if you have seen a therapist, get the therapist letter that you had come during this time and you had to get a therapy. If you're associated with any kind of DV agencies, domestic violence agencies like TouchLink or Manvi or New Jersey Coalition, try to get a support letter from that DV agency. Any kind of a police reports that you may have made, gather all the police reports, not just the very recent one, all the police reports. Documentation, a precise documentation is extremely important to get justice. Moreover, if you have gone to any hospital for any emergency, you need to make sure that you have that documented by the nurses, by the doctors, anybody. So documentation is extremely crucial. Once you have all this proof, your TRO, and then that TRO going for FRO, when you have an FRO hearing, your story becomes a very solid foundation. You have a very strong foundation here to argue the matter in front of the judge. So that's important. And sometimes, let's say if the FRO is not granted, what is FRO? Final restraining order. The difference between TRO and FRO is for 7 to 10 days, which means that the abuser and the victim cannot see each other for 7 to 10 days. FRO, if granted, if the judge says, yes, the FRO is granted, the abuser and the victim cannot see each other for the rest of their life until and unless the victim decides to dismiss the FRO. So that's the difference. And sometimes, it's difficult to get the FRO because a lot of evidence is necessary. And let's say if the FRO is not granted, then what? Then there is a middle ground, which is called a civil restraint order. What is a civil restraint order? In a civil restraint order, two lawyers come together. So a victim's lawyer and a perpetrator's lawyer. And then they try to come up with an agreement, which is very similar to like a no contact order, that you both parties will not contact each other. What happens when they have violated that? Let's talk about that. If a perpetrator violates an FRO, and if you report it to the police, he will be immediately arrested. He will be immediately taken to the jail. With a civil restraint order, if a perpetrator has violated that, he or she cannot be immediately taken to the prison. A motion needs to be filed in the court with the help of a lawyer. So it's a long process. Again, you have to file a motion. So we covered three things. One is TRO, temporary restraining order. Second is FRO, final restraining order. And we also covered civil restraint order. Civil restraint order is more like a negotiation where the judge is not involved. Two parties decide outside of the court. And then if the two parties have come to an agreement, the judge gives a stamping and that, okay, if the two parties have come with this agreement, then the judge does not have to play any role. So these are the three most important things. What can I do? My abuser is using the children against me. Yes, that's true. We hear this all the time. And there are a couple of things here. How old are the kids? How are the kids manipulated? And honestly, I don't have an answer. What can I do? The only thing is just finding a support system. Support system meaning having a lawyer, having a DV agency, a child psychologist who can probably evaluate children and write that, yes, the kids are being brainwashed. Maybe that can help. So I think there are just layers to it, which just the way the case develops, we'll have to find the resources. And this is very common that the abuser uses kid as their mechanism to find their way out. This is quite a common thing that we have seen, yes. I'm currently in waiting because I filed for asylum with my spouse and experiencing domestic abuse. What should I do? Report it to the police. Report it to the police. You need to report to the police. Report it to your lawyer. Is there a way you can find a different housing with the help? My visa expired and I'm afraid to report to my situation due to fear. Again, a fear. If you're fearful and if you're sitting home, nothing is going to happen. You have to report it. And as I said, reporting to the police and expiration of visa are two different things. Your documents, your visa status, and reporting to the police are two different things. Visa and all of that falls with the USCIS and immigration. That's where you need an immigration lawyer. Being abused is something your human right. Anyone can get abused. Even an undocumented person who doesn't even had a visa and who is here undocumented can also, they need a lawyer. Okay, so where can I find a lawyer to represent me since I'm not financially stable? I answered this. You have to call Legal Aid Resources, LSNJ, Central Jersey Legal Services. You can just Google them. Google LSNJ, Legal Services of New Jersey. If you're in the Middlesex County, Central Jersey Legal Services. And they have a certain criteria. And if you meet that criteria, you will be eligible to get a free representation of a lawyer. So yes, there are resources. And sometimes if you don't find resources, just contacting certain DV agencies, do they have funds to sponsor a lawyer? Just I think it's a homework. It's a homework of finding the right resources. But yes, resources are there. Help is available. Calling the court, wherever your court is, calling the court that, okay, you know what? I don't have a lawyer. I cannot afford it financially. What resources? Court has their own resources. Contacting their bar association. So it's just a homework that needs to be done, calling the court, calling DV agencies, calling legal aid services. Those are few avenues I can think of as of now. And talking to a domestic violence advocate who can help you navigate this. Whom should I call? Where can I find a free representation? Am I eligible for it or not? So those are the ways that we can dig deeper and see if you're eligible or not. What should I expect in court? Meeting my abuser in court? And yes, I address this, that, you know, if you are scared to meet your abuser, let the court know ahead of the time before the court hearing. So let the court personnel know, and they will help you they will separate you into different rooms, or just call one by one. What should I meeting? I don't have money to hire an attorney, but my abuser have one. How can I prepare myself not to be intimidated? That's true, and I see that all the time. One person may have the ability to pay to an expensive lawyer. One person may not have the ability. But when you think that, okay, financially you do not have the ability to pay to a lawyer, that should not scare you. That should prepare you much more than just having a lawyer and doing all the homework, because now the onus is on you and you will be doing much more homework. And that can also be done with the help of a DV agency, DV advocates, domestic violence advocates, calling the court system. They also have divorce seminars, just attending different seminars, learning about it, making informed decisions, just educating yourself, training yourself, and just letting the court also know if they have such sessions. Many different courts in different counties have the sessions where they have divorce, expungement, criminal law seminars, and just educating yourself. I would say even watching YouTube videos, just Googling it and watching YouTube videos, how to navigate the court system. It's more about preparing. It's a lot of preparation. And I think that's best, because having an expensive lawyer, not winning the case is such a big loss than not having a lawyer and doing your own homework and uplifting yourself that, okay, how the legal system works. And I understand it's easier said than done, but having a support system, DV agency, advocates coming together and just being very committed that, okay, I don't have a lawyer, or I don't have that financial ability. I need to do my homework. Let me do it right from the beginning, whatever it takes, that commitment level. So what else do we have here? Questions? I'm missing anything? For a temporary restraining order, fear has to be established. Yes. Should you document any instances just to, yes, I mentioned that. We mentioned the documents. Okay, let's see what you can. Visa, do I have any obligation to? You don't have any obligation to it's not an obligation, but if you are fearful, if there is a fear, if you genuinely think that I'm being abused, I think to protect yourself, it's your duty to report it. So it should not be like a burden, but it's a priority, it's a necessity, because your life is at stake. And we have seen domestic violence can lead to murders. It can lead to suicides. It can really cost you your own life. So this is something that should be taken very, very seriously. This is a great question. I have a language barrier. How can I get out of the cycle of abuse? Great question. If you have a language barrier, you need to get in touch with a person who speaks the same language as you do. That could be a DV agency advocate, or that could be a family member, that could be a friend. But it's important someone who knows your language as well as knows the English language. If you're unable to find any such person, then then call any DV agency and they can access language line. Language line, with the help of language line, we can see what help exactly do you require and navigate the system. But yes, don't let language barrier be like, oh, I don't know English language, I have a language barrier, and therefore now I have to bear and tolerate that abuse. No, you don't have to. You can call any DV agency, just Google it, Domestic Violence Agency, New Jersey. New Jersey has 21 counties. Each county has a DV agency. So please don't stop just because there is a language barrier. Safety plan is extremely important. As I said, all the documentation is very important. It could be any important joint, if there is money in the joint bank account, or if there is any important valuable things, it's important you keep it at a safe space. And safety planning, meaning if you have a cell phone, or if your neighbor knows, or if you can take children into confidence using some code language, it's important that you protect yourself. It could be like you need to know the timings when the perpetrator is in and out so that you can navigate your system. So just know and let the DV agency advocate know that these are the timings. We have so many phone calls and they would say, okay, this time I can't talk because the abuser is home, and they would just give us a signal. Okay, so then let's try to pre-plan it as to when we can talk, when you can navigate. Transportation is important. Do you have transportation from the place where you live? If not, what are the means that we can? Is there a bus accessible? Is there a train? Is there an Uber ride? Do you have money for Uber ride? Can any DV agency sponsor Uber for you? When I say sponsor, means can they just do the DV agency have funds to have an Uber for you? There are so many resources out there. You just have to open your doors, Google, call, whatever it takes. I call 911 and the police showed up, but my abuser is told to interpret for it. Well, in that case, when you call 911, the first thing you want to say is, I need an interpreter. This is the language I speak, officer. I need an interpreter. I don't want my perpetrator or abuser to interpret for me because that will not be accurate. When you call 911, have the officer provide you the interpret. If they don't have, just say that, okay, is there any way I want to communicate, or have a friend or have a DV agency? Find out. You don't want your perpetrator to interpret for you. No, that's not a good thing. Can I go to social services for help? Well, social services force is like for food stamps or for housing. I think for the domestic violence, it's particularly important you call a domestic violence agency because they are equipped and trained with the resources and the tools that we need to protect a victim. So it's important you call DV agency, especially when you are in crisis. Let's see what other questions we have. I'm currently waiting because I filed for asylum with my spouse and experiencing abuse. My visa expired. I'm afraid to report. Yeah, I think I covered this. I think I'm just going to, I don't see more questions. I have really tried to cover up everything, but here is what my take is. Whether you go to the police station, you go to the hospital, or you go to the court, if there is a fear, call a DV agency, request a domestic violence advocate to accompany you. A domestic violence advocate will accompany you to the police station, to the medical if there is an emergency, to the hospital, to the court if there is court hearing. If you feel very emotionally drained, alienated, lonely, it's important that you need to find a support. And the best support is the neutral support that you can get from a DV agency. So please call the DV agency and request a domestic violence advocate. Secondly, if there is a fear that you feel that I have a fear, may that be immigration, may that be a family law, talk to a DV agency advocate, gather help, attend women's support group, and just find resources. And I would say not to stick with only one DV agency. We have so many survivors where we see they use multiple mechanisms, which means they may call DV agency, they may call our organization for legal advocacy, but they may call another organization for transportation. They may call third agency. So try to plan. You just don't have to stick to one DV agency. See what your needs are, and then try to see which agency can help you with. So navigate that. Diversify your horizons so that you get help from everywhere. That's all I have to say, unless if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. I believe, do we have any other questions? All the questions that we actually posed to us, Ms. Something has tried to answer all of the questions. Ms. Chichi, do you have any questions? There was a question about DCPMP, that means, concerning the children, yes, diverse. Can Miss Surti answer that question, because I know maybe you have an insight, because it's always an issue. I have somebody that I'm dealing actually with, that the children are part of this whole issue, and there's fear with women, my children being used as a ping pong in between the two, and I have a situation where the mother will take the child and leave the house, the child will fall sick and she'll be forced to go back into that particular situation. Can you please address that?
Sure. So here is my opinion on DIFUS. When people hear about DIFUS, sometimes they just get scared. Oh, my kids will be taken away and they will be put into foster care. So that's the fear. But if the child is being abused genuinely, DIFUS doesn't want to just take away your child and put it somewhere else, but they want to navigate it and they want to protect the best interest of the child. So I think reporting to the DIFUS is only important because they want to see what the mechanism or the dynamic of the families are. So if you think that your child is being abused by the abuser in any way, it's important to report it to the DIFUS. If someone else from the outside has reported to the DIFUS, okay, then also there is no need to get afraid, because if DIFUS comes to your house, it's not that they want to take away the child, but to have a dialogue, a transparency, and just let them see what the dynamic is important. If the DIFUS representative is satisfied that no, there is a strong dynamic between a mother or a daughter or a son or a father, and the abuse is going on, they want to address the abuse. They want to address why the abuse is there. But I don't think that fear should be established in any way. And again, if the fear is established, take help of a DV agency. So now we are talking about the victim, DIFUS, DV agency. So you're creating a support system. Even if DIFUS comes, if a DV agency representative is there, they can have a dialogue and they can work collaboratively. The more collaborations are there, the fear will go away, because now more people are involved in your case. More people want to help. I think isolation creates more fear. Isolation, not telling people, keeping it in your heart, just saying, oh, what my people will think, what my family will think, what my friends will think, what my employer or colleagues will think. Isolation, secrets, that creates much more fear and layers of fear. When you break through those fears, when you call different agencies, when you go out for help, okay, that's when I think the universe starts supporting you. So it's very important that even when the DIFUS comes, you can have a lawyer, you can have a DV agency, you can have multiple entities involved who can support you.
Okay. I'm asking Miss Chichi if she can hear me. If you want to speak a little bit on the issue of DIFUS. Miss Chichi, yeah.
Yes, hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, I can speak a little bit on that. And I know we're all used to calling it DIFUS, right? It's no longer
DCPMP, yes, I know.
So we're DCPMP, just like Vimmi said, definitely we do know, as a child protective agency, we do know that domestic violence does affect children. And whenever there's an incident of domestic violence reported to the police, here in New Jersey, they will call my agency immediately. So we step in not only to help, but also to provide services for that child. We will not in any case remove any child from their parents if there's DV involved. We're actually stepping in to provide services, help that mother or that father, whoever the victim is, to navigate the system, move them to a shelter for safety, provide services for the children to make sure that they're okay, advocate for them even in courts, advocate for them wherever they need to go to the police station. We usually do that for families. So there should be no fear, or if the perpetrator is trying to use that, to put fear in the victim's mind, that shouldn't happen, because we're coming to help. We're not coming to take the kids away or do anything that they might be saying. So Vimmi is right about that.
All right. Thank you very much for that contribution. And I want to say thank you to our speaker. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'm not afraid to ask for people to donate. I'm sure I have about 26 people on right now. And I will actually really, really implore each and every one of us. We have on the 29th, we have a rally whereby we're going to meet at 1 Main Street in Woodbridge. That's where we gather the last Saturday in this month. And then we're going to work, in that community, making everybody to be aware. There will be people that's going to be speaking. And we just want this annual work. Whatever we've been doing right now, this is the 8th year. We want to thank as many people that have partnered with us, giving us money, giving us their time, their resources, their money, their wisdom, and we want to say thank you so much. If you look on the screen, you can become a sponsor. You can go to info@touchlink.org to learn about what we do. You can give. And I want to say we have a particular organization that will match whatever we give. So I really, really want to put that organization into really, really big trouble. Imagine if we can just, have somebody giving 10,000, that means we are going to put them in trouble. That means they have to match it up, whatever we're able to raise. Raising 20,000, that means they are going to match it up. And I'm actually, asking every one of us to please, to consider giving. And maybe I'm just going to say, maybe, if you are thinking of giving 50, maybe you can multiply it by 2, 3, or 4. And so that will go a long way. You know how much it is now to really feed maybe one person or a family of 4 is a lot right now, because things are very expensive. And we do a lot. We place people in shelter. We place people in the hotel. We make sure that they have, the basic things of life to at least make them comfortable when they are leaving that situation. And so to just alleviate a little bit of comfort, so that at least we can reduce the level of anxiety, the worry, the fear, and they can be at peace a little bit. So we want to say, please consider giving. You can donate via PayPal. You can donate via QGIV. You can also, maybe you have not registered, you have friends that have not, please contact them, let them register, and we really appreciate you. And we want to say thank you to everyone that consider your time is very valuable. Time is money, and we appreciate you for joining us tonight. But one more time is, please, we want to leave a community better than we met it. So we want a domestic abuse, violence-free community, and together we can achieve this. A tree does not make a forest. Together, as a team, we can make a change. And that is the reason why we are here to empower people. We are here to give them hope. We're here to tell them you are not supposed to die in that situation. There is a way out. There is a better life. There is, you are made for more. You are made for more. So we want to tell both, people in that situation going through it or coming out of it, saying that they are made for more and they can live a purposeful life, a fulfilled life, a victorious life, a life full of joy and happiness and peace. That's all that we all language barrier, just like our speaker said, please, we'll be willing to talk to you. Whatever language you speak, whatever your culture is, we have organizations out there that are willing to help. It doesn't matter where you are, what your descent is, please speak up. There is always an organization out there to help you. When you call us, if there's any barrier, we will try and leap over the wall with you to make sure that you are where you are supposed to be. And I want to say thank you to each and every one. I'll be looking at the website, please, to see how many people are giving towards this. This is a whole month-long program that we have. We have had, this is what we still have another one on Saturday. Please join us. This is meant for each and every one of us. You can take this message to your church, to your mosque, to your temple. You can actually take this message to your work. I've also seen workers expressing the same thing, and then being able to speak to them, saying, listen, I belong to this particular, you can talk to this person. It doesn't have to be me. Just call this number. There is help there for you if you are ready to access it. So I want to say thank you very much. And we really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Miss Vimmi. We are grateful. We are people that celebrate, people that have been of help to us. We say God bless you. We appreciate you truly. So we shall
thank you for having me
on Saturday. Thank you. I'll be giving you a call, and I'm sure Pastor Iwane will be giving you a call. Miss Chichi will be giving you a call, and some other volunteers also, when we have all these wonderful people that need our help. Thank you so much for being there, being an advocate, speaking up for those ones who are voiceless. We appreciate each and every one of us. And if you have any other thing to say, do we have? Pastor Tunde, do you want to close us in prayer? If possible. I know she's looking at me. It's like, I called you to pray. Yes, I know you are. You are there. Are you mute?
Hi, I'm not a pastor.
Okay. I just give you the appellate today because I want you to pray.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and deliberate about the legal aspect of domestic violence. We thank our speaker, Vimmi. We thank Chinole, and we thank everybody on this platform. Direct us in everything that we're going to do from today forward. Let us be an advocate and let us reach out to the world and be with us in every challenge that we have in our lives. Speak to it. As we go, give us a good life and give us a wonderful sleep. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. There's always help out there. Please speak up. Don't keep quiet. Violence is not supported by supreme being. So always speak up. There's help out there. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful, restful night. And see you on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Daramola.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
you.